Arabia this morning. And if you've missed the first half of the show, well, not to worry. I mean, my guest today will definitely highlight why we have actually zeroed in on Saudi, because, of course, you're seeing the numbers spiking. And, of course, we have quite a number of situations of human rights violations. What we're asking is, what about these individuals? What happens to them? And who is going to represent them and help them get the justice that they deserve? Okay? There's a lot that happens, obviously, from the situations that we've been seeing being highlighted on social media, on legacy media as well, the psychological effects. Unfortunately, we've seen death cases coming from the Arab world of just abuse of domestic workers. And so in studio with me is human rights expert Stephanie Mbogo from the Global Justice Group, who are focusing on representing these individuals. In fact, they've already started the work, by the way, of documenting these cases. And oh my God, it will just blow your mind listening to the statistics. Stephanie, welcome back to the show. I was just telling her over the break, I can't believe I'm here discussing domestic workers and me in my own house. You know, they say, me and my house, we shall praise the Lord. Yeah, me and my house, we have, I don't know, there's a domestic worker situation happening. So where is my justice?
And it's there, you know, but I always say, he who comes into equity must come with clean hands.
Right.
Many of us do not get into employment relationships with domestic workers formally. It's an informal arrangement. Mom, nitafutie mtu.
That's the thing.
And you get somebody.
Yeah.
Do you have a contract?
Yeah.
Do you pay the minimum wage? Do you remit their NHIF?
Do you give them
NSSF?
their leave days? Do you
give them their leave days?
By the way, we need to have a conversation about that. I think that's going to be such a hot one, because we also need to understand where we're getting it wrong with them, and also on the flip side, understand what their needs are, so that now we can start seeing a bit of harmony, you know, within households. But that's a story for another day. For now, let's focus on the ones who are looking for work abroad. We did manage to tease this particular discussion, Stephanie, on our social media platforms. Thank you so much for the feedback that we received. Brenda is our director today, so happiness. Let's take a look at those text messages real quick, and then we can get back into the discussion. Jacqueline from Molo says, hello, I have been interested in getting jobs out there. One thing I hear ladies from Huko, Saudi say is that their bosses keep their passports. Is a live-in domestic worker allowed to keep her passport? By the way, that's a very common thing that we tend to hear from workers abroad. Stephanie, please advise.
Okay, so the situation, as per the law, is that every person who goes should be in custody of their documents, of their items, of their phone, until they come back. That is your personal property. No one should confiscate it from you. But now we have a problem. We have training institutions, which have, yes, the NITA curriculum that says the same thing, but they like to give their little advice here and there that is a bit embellished with false information. And they say, please allow me to say it in Swahili. Kwa Mwarabu, ukienda, vile atasema, wewe fanya. Don't worry about it. So that uishi kwa amani. Kwa Mwarabu, ukienda, akikwambia akae na passport yako, anakuwekea vizuri. Okay? But those who, you know, from those we have interviewed, because we ask, did you have your passport? Did you keep your passport? There's not a single person who's allowed to keep their passport. Either they stole it away when they were cleaning the employer's room or their employer's space, or they just never saw it again. At all. You look at the number of people in deportation centers because they do not have documentation. It's crazy. But I almost empathize with the situation simply because you're in a foreign land. You have never boarded a plane before. I boarded a plane, but I get flustered when I'm at the airport. I don't know what's what. I try to do my reading before. But they hand over that documentation. And before the 2017 ban that Kenya imposed, you know, your documentation, once you hand over in Kenya, that is the last you will see of it. It was given to the crew. But, you know, there have been a lot of reforms on that end. So you get your documentation. But as you land in Saudi Arabia, your employer wants to confirm that it's you. Remember, there's a language barrier.
Yes.
Many of these people do not know how to speak Arabic. Your employer speaks Arabic only.
Yeah.
So the only way they can get to confirm who you are and your identity, yes, they have a photo, is through your passport. So they look like, you know, they pick the passport, some of them with the intention of, yeah, I want to confirm that it's you, but they don't hand it back.
Right. Then they're like, oh yeah, it's for filing purposes.
Exactly. And they say that we are going to file your residence permit called an ikama.
Right.
And after that, that is the last that you will see your passport. Are you going to go and force somebody to hand you back your documents?
Yeah.
Remember, you're in their home.
Yeah.
You have no legal status. You can't walk out onto the streets in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
What do you do? What do you do? So that's reforms that need to come from that end.
Right.
As well as from the training institutions here.
And if the minute that, you know, you see that someone is, or at least an employer is trying to take this from you, that's a red flag. You need to already start figuring out how to get out of that situation.
Exactly.
Right.
And one of the things that Faith, I see, has done in very many spaces and continues to do is to advise people. She's like, this is how I survived.
Yeah.
At this point, it's a survival.
Yeah,
This
which
is how I
is so
survived.
wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
Why are we
supposed to be
sending people
working.
to go survive?
Yeah, I know. Just stay here. I mean, yeah, what are you surviving?
Know? And, you know, she tells them before I left, because they're given documents at the JKIA check-in door, literally, that is when they see their documents, their passport, their everything. That is when you first see your documents.
Right.
So if you're given your documents there, take photos, as many photos as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And send them to families, send them to friends, whatever documentation you have, take those photos. Many people, even your contract documents, are confiscated as soon as you get into the household or as soon as you're picked up.
Yeah.
What, you barely even know the name of your employer.
Yeah.
Your employer has maybe 6, 7 names. And they more or less sound the same. That's a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Okay. Thanks so much for that, Stephanie. And thank you for the text message. Let's look at another one. Evans from Mombasa, thank you so much. Many of these agencies promise heaven, and young girls are, okay, I'm guessing are lured, and young girls are lured by these big jobs in the Arab world. Okay, how can we make agencies more efficient at what they do? That's a good question. I think even this one we can tie it onto one of the questions I had for you, and I like the term that you guys use as duty bearers, okay? Because you've highlighted quite a number of individuals, or, you know, who needs to be held responsible, but I'm thinking this is now the private sector that we're talking about. So these agents fall under entrepreneurs who've decided that they just want to start this work, right? So these are people, by the way, we really, really need to have our magnifying glass on, because the process starts with them.
So fortunately, they're regulated. The National Employment Authority is regulating all agencies. Yes, they have their own private you know, associations like ASMAC, CAPER, and the likes, but they are regulated by the National Employment Authority.
Yeah.
The problem is, though they're regulated, you know, their licenses last a year or 2 or 3 or whatever it is that they get. So if you're being recruited by an agency, first thing is check the NEA website to check that they have a valid license.
Okay.
And, you know, many people, when they're going into this process, they do it in a lot of secrecy. So if someone is lying to you, no one would know.
Right.
Demand to see your paperwork. They tell you that they're going to pay you 50,000. Well and good. We've had cases of someone who came and said, oh, you know, I was told I'm going to work a big corporate job in America, in this and the other. And I'm just like, yeah, there's also a level of due diligence that
you must do.
We must undertake.
Yeah.
And the agencies, why I refer to them as duty bearers is because for every migrant domestic worker, and I speak on domestic workers because that is the area that I have evidence on and authority on. They live with a statutory document. This is a form of foreign contract of service, as outlined by Section 83 of the Employment Act. And this contract is a contract between the agency and the domestic worker, the migrant domestic worker. And the contract duration is 2 years. So for the entire period of their contract. That is why I list them as a duty bearer.
Yeah.
Because there's an employer-employee relationship that is created based on that contract. And there are very many other, you know, clauses in terms of leave, in terms of medical support, in terms of death, wages.
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards. Termination is a very well crafted document.
But implementation...
But unfortunately, it's just a document.
Yes, implementation
it's just one
is
of those
always
papers.
the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I call them the core duty bearers
Right.
of migrant domestic workers.
Correct, because how many go there and then say they were abandoned by the agent that actually facilitated for, you know, that that job, which is so wrong. Because Stephanie, if I come to your agency and suddenly I'm trying to reach you from Saudi or Oman or whatever, and I can't get you, I mean, what kind of business person are you in the first place? I mean, there's like no ethics there.
Yeah, it's so, right?
Yeah.
There are those who we have seen have tried to reach out when they're in distress, or rather the survivors reached out when they're in distress, and the agents did take some action, but also there needs to be a proper mechanism where the relationship between the Kenyan agent and the Saudi agent is harmonious. Because the first person that a distressed migrant domestic worker will call is the Kenyan agent.
Right. Who then
will call the Saudi agent. The Saudi agent may or may not.
Yeah.
Or they may call the employer.
All right.
But remember, the person that you're trying to save is trapped in somebody's house. So you have to be empathetic when you're dealing with their case.
Yeah.
There's a case of one of the survivors who sent photos of how badly she's been beaten.
Yeah.
And sent the photos to the agent. When she sent the photos to the agent sent to the Saudi agent. Saudi agent sent them back to the employer.
Oh, geez.
She's still in that home.
Oh, my God.
What happens? She's beaten more.
Yeah.
You know? So there needs to be a harmonious...
Yeah. And professionalism. Professionalism, people. Steph, let's look at the next text message. Caroline, thank you. Oh my, this is so sad to hear the thousands of women in Saudi who have been abused, yet these women continue to seek work due to desperate times. What is our government doing to provide employment? Hustler Nation to Saudi so that our women stop dying. Caroline's point here is, and I think I liked that particular one that was selected, is about why the brain drain. Why encourage more technical skills to be going out there versus trying to figure out how they can work here locally? I mean, but anyway, it's a matter of perspective. What's your take on what Caroline is saying?
Maybe just before on that, in terms of domestic workers, the conversation on unpaid care work needs to be amplified. You're in Kenya. You have 5 children, you have your mother, you have your grandmother, you're taking care of them. Nobody is remunerating you for that. You have to take them to the kiosk with you, or you have to take them as Mama Fua, wherever you go. No one is remunerating you appropriately for that. Give or take, at the end of the month, you make 3,000 shillings. Then you come and get an opportunity that will give you 35,000 shillings to do the same things that no one will remunerate you for. To cook, to clean, to take care of people, to wash clothes, just caregiving and domestic work. When we begin to address unpaid care work, when we look at the contribution of care work to the economy, only then can we begin to understand why there's a brain drain.
Okay.
I'd rather go work for 35,000 than stay here, take care of everybody, be as tired, and get 3,000 at the end of the month.
All right, after all your deductions.
That's the reality that people are looking at. Yes.
Okay, so we've got 3 minutes to go, Steph. So let's just try and breeze through the next points that I want us to touch on. I liked the fact that you had zeroed this down to 5 terms that have been developed to describe the migrant workers' challenges. So when you describe what are the reasons, what is happening in the that situation on that part of the world, what are these terms that you guys had clearly highlighted? I want you to share them with people to understand why people are taking these jobs.
Alrighty, there's desperation. Desperation, I've already elaborately spoken about it. There's deception. There's coercion. Let me start with those 3. And let me circle in and zero in on those 3. Desperation, deception, and coercion. Then all of them are properly culminated in profit. And that's it. That is what is the problem. We have desperate Kenyans who are deceived by people looking to make profit. And who are coerced, those who have realized they have been deceived, have been coerced into spaces for people to make profit.
Right.
Yes.
This is so unfortunate. When we keep those terms in mind, it really does paint a picture. One other interesting thing that your report indicates is about the gender nexus of abuse that's happening. Tell us about these findings, because it's interesting to know what's happening to the girl child out there.
You know, you have to look at the past to be able to understand the present and the future. Domestic workers traditionally and statistically are mainly women.
Yeah.
And you look at also the human rights abuses, you look at women's rights progression, even in Saudi Arabia, on their own women, questionable. Then now you bring in the race aspect. Remember, we have a historical slave trade kind of relationship with the Middle East. Bring in all those, it becomes a mesh of intersectional discrimination that Kenyan domestic workers face abroad. And you find that men, when they leave, many of them are given, they stay with their contracts, they stay in proper accommodation. It's a very different space that they encounter as compared to women. These 151,000 people in Saudi Arabia, majority, actually domestic workers, all of them are women. Because, you know, is an Arab lady going to ask a man to cook? Is she going to ask a man to clean the bedroom? And her husband, will he allow that to happen, to have a male DM, you know? Absolutely. That's just not possible. I mean, even from a cultural perspective, it doesn't even sound viable. Okay, this is now where, as we are wrapping up, where you throw, let me say, some responsibility to us. Because you've talked about the public also being duty bearers. Where do we fall in this entire situation? Highlighting what is going on. A lot of the plight of migrant domestic workers I see is on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, thereabout, but mainly Facebook. But it's private people, private entities that are trying to push this. And also trying to get into media, it's not an easy thing. I have, you know, if you just check online, if maybe there was a minute spared to just run an ad that is awareness driven, it would do a great deal of difference. That's a good suggestion. It would do a great deal of difference, you know? It becomes like corporate social responsibility for such a large population of people. Well, thank you so much. Let's wrap up with Job Lukale, rather. I was going to say Kulale. Job Lukale from Karen. Thanks so much. Brenda, allow me to just read this as we say goodbye. He says, domestic workers have fundamental rights that should be protected by the employers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This includes and not limited to receiving salary on time, having a day to rest, and also well cared for. Upon completion of the contract, it's good to pay for them air tickets back home. Thank you so much, Job. Stephanie, how can people reach you ASAP? Should they require, by the way, consultation so that we can say Kwaheri? We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Global Justice Group, we're on Twitter. Please just reach out. You don't need to have an appointment. Just reach out. We'll let you know how to get to us, to our offices, and we can support you from there. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Kazi Kwetu, by the way, even as the the public, as Stephanie has said, we need to do more in regards to this particular docket so that we can ensure that women are working and earning safely. If, of course, you did find this particular discussion engaging, provocative, if you will, give us your feedback, by the way. We'd appreciate it through our social media platforms at K24 TV across the platform. And let me say, Kwaheri, we're going to be welcoming, obviously, the interactive group who are coming up next. Today was Bring Your Toto to Work Days. I'm saying goodbye. Cairo, come. You want to come say bye? Come. Come, right? Come on set. All right, come say bye, Cairo. Come. Yay, you're on TV. Bye-bye. Stephanie, say bye. Say bye to people at home. Bye. Okay.
Saturday morning won't be the same again.
Launch sequence activated.
Have a nice trip.
Oh, yes.
As K24 TV brings you Akili and me. Ubongo Kids, Next Generation, My World Kitchen, Muddle Earth, and MI High on Kids Zone from 7 a.m.